The space station Concordia Prime floated in the dark between stars. It was huge, like a small city made of metal and glass. Ships from 100 different worlds came and went every day. Inside, aliens of all shapes and sizes walked through the wide halls. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like walking crystals. This was the heart of the Galactic Council, where all the important decisions were made. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in her quarters, looking out at the stars. She was 42 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. She had been on Concordia Prime for 3 months now. Her job was simple but important. She spoke for all of humanity at the council meetings. It was a job that made her proud and scared at the same time. Sarah pressed her hand against the cold window. Earth was very far away. Her daughter was there, finishing her last year of university. Sarah had missed her birthday to attend an emergency session at the council. She hoped it was worth it. Her assistant Marcus Webb walked into the room. He was a young man with red hair and glasses. "Ambassador," he said, "the council session starts in 1 hour. They say it will be about the new trade agreements." Sarah nodded. "Thank you, Marcus. Have you heard anything unusual?" Marcus hesitated. Some of the other diplomats seemed nervous. "I am not sure why. The Zykari delegation has been in private meetings all week." The Zykari, Sarah knew them well. They were tall aliens with smooth purple skin and 4 arms. Their empire was one of the oldest and most powerful in the galaxy. They did not like humans very much. Humans were new to the council. Only 15 years as members, but in those 15 years, humanity had made many friends and many successful deals. The Zykari seemed to hate that. Sarah grabbed her datapad and followed Marcus to the council chamber. The chamber was a massive room with a domed ceiling that showed the stars above. Seats arranged in circles went up and up like a stadium. At the center was a platform where speakers stood. Sarah took her place in the human section. She was alone there. Earth only sent 1 ambassador. The session began. The council leader, an ancient being called the Architect, opened the meeting. The Architect looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. Its voice echoed in everyone's mind rather than through the air. "We gather to discuss the proposed expansion of human trade routes," the Architect said. Before Sarah could respond, alarms screamed through the station. Red lights flashed. The floor shook hard enough to knock some delegates from their seats. Sarah grabbed her chair to stay standing. Smoke began to fill the chamber. "Evacuate," someone shouted, but it was too late. Explosions tore through the eastern wing of the station. The beautiful dome above cracked. Air began rushing out into space. Emergency shields slammed into place just in time. Sarah could see bodies lying still on the floor. Aliens from many worlds, all dead or dying. Security forces in heavy armor rushed into the chamber. They were Zykari soldiers. Sarah noticed that immediately. Why were Zykari soldiers providing security today? Usually the council used neutral forces. One of the soldiers pointed at Sarah. "Seize the human." Sarah stepped back. "What? Why?" "Human explosive devices were used in the attack," the soldier said. "You are under arrest for terrorism. That is impossible." Sarah shouted. "I had nothing to do with this." The soldiers did not listen. They grabbed her arms roughly and dragged her away. Marcus tried to follow, but another soldier pushed him back. Sarah looked over her shoulder and saw the chaos in the chamber. Thousands were dead, and somehow she was being blamed for it. They threw her into a cell deep in the station. The walls were smooth metal with no windows. A single light glowed from the ceiling. Sarah sat on the hard bench and tried to think. This made no sense. Why would anyone think she did this? Why would humanity attack the council? Earth had everything to gain from peace and everything to lose from war. Hours passed. Then a Zykari official came to her cell. He was tall and wore expensive robes covered in metals. His 4 arms were folded across his chest. "I am Inquisitor Zathril," he said. "You will stand trial tomorrow for crimes against the council." "Tomorrow?" Sarah stood up. "That is not enough time." "I need to contact Earth. I need lawyers. I need to prepare a defense." "The council has invoked ancient emergency law," Zathril said. His voice was cold. "In cases of terrorism, trials must be swift. You will be allowed to speak in your defense. That is all." "This is not justice," Sarah said quietly. Zathril smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Justice is what the council decides it is." The trial happened in a small courtroom with only a few observers. No reporters were allowed. Earth sent emergency messages demanding a delay. demanding evidence, demanding fair treatment. All of their demands were ignored. Sarah stood in chains while Zathril presented his case. He showed images of the destroyed areas. He showed chemical signatures that he claimed matched human explosives. He showed security footage that he said proved Sarah had placed devices before the meeting. But Sarah knew that footage was fake. The woman in the video moved wrong, looked wrong. It was not her. "That is not me in that video," she shouted. "Anyone can see it is altered. The tribunal will decide what is real," the judge said. The judge was another Zicari. The trial lasted 4 hours. Sarah was allowed to speak for 10 minutes. She told them the truth. She told them she was innocent. She told them that someone was setting her up, setting humanity up. She begged them to investigate properly. The tribunal did not care. They found her guilty. The sentence was death by vaporization, to be carried out immediately. It was the harshest punishment the council had. It was meant to send a message. Sarah was given one last chance to speak. She stood straight even though her hands shook. "My name is Sarah Chen," she said clearly. "I am innocent. I served humanity and the council with honor. When the truth comes out, and it will come out, the galaxy will remember this day. You are not executing a terrorist. You are murdering a diplomat. That is a crime that will haunt the council forever." They took her to the execution chamber. It was broadcast across the entire galaxy, as was the tradition for such sentences. Billions watched as Sarah Chen was led to a platform. She did not cry. She did not beg. She stood with her head high. On Earth, people gathered in the streets to watch. They shouted at the screens, demanding someone save her. But no one could. Earth was far away and had no power to stop this. In the Chen family home, Sarah's daughter, Jessica, watched with tears streaming down her face. "Mom," she whispered. "Mom, no." The Zicari executioner activated the device. A beam of pure energy struck Sarah. For just a moment, she seemed to glow. Then she was gone. Not even ashes remained. The architect's voice echoed across the broadcast. "Let this be a lesson to all who would threaten the peace of the council. Justice has been served." But on Earth, in the offices of the Intelligence Service, Director James Park watched the execution with narrowed eyes. He turned to his analysts. "Find out what really happened," he said quietly. "Sarah Chen was many things, but she was not a terrorist. Someone killed thousands and blamed us for it. Find out who." His team went to work immediately. They had the best computers, the best hackers, and the best analysts humanity had ever produced. Within hours, they started finding things. Strange things. Things that did not make sense. The explosives that destroyed Concordia Prime were not human-made. The chemical signatures had been faked. The security footage had been altered with Zicari technology. The witnesses who testified against Sarah had all been paid by Zicari shell companies. Most damning of all, they found communications. Encrypted messages between Zicari military leaders and the Zicari council representative. The messages talked about the need to eliminate human influence. They talked about staging an attack and blaming Earth. They talked about Sarah Chen by name. Director Park brought the evidence to President Marcus Okoye. The president was a tall man with gray hair and a face made hard by years of difficult decisions. He read through the files in silence. When he finished, he closed his eyes and took a long breath. "They killed her," Okoye said. "They killed our ambassador and made the whole galaxy think we were monsters." "Yes, sir," Park said. "And the council let them do it." "Yes, sir." President Okoye opened his eyes. They were full of cold anger. "Prepare the evidence for transmission to the council. Every council member will see the truth. And prepare our fleets, just in case." 3 days after Sarah Chen's execution, President Okoye stood before the United Earth Assembly. Every nation had sent representatives. The chamber was full and completely silent. Everyone knew something big was about to happen. Okoye activated the massive screens around the room. "What I am about to show you will change everything," he said. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council executed our ambassador. They said she was a terrorist. They said humanity attacked Concordia Prime. They lied. The screens filled with the evidence, the fake chemical signatures, the altered video footage, the encrypted Zicari communications planning the attack, the payments to false witnesses. Every piece of proof was shown clearly and carefully. "The Zicari Dominion committed mass murder," Okoye said. "They killed thousands of innocent beings. Then they blamed us and demanded we pay the price. The council knew we were innocent. They could have investigated. They could have asked for proof. Instead, they rushed through a fake trial and executed our ambassador in less than 3 days. The assembly members looked at each other in shock. One delegate from South Africa stood up. Her voice shook with anger. "What will we do about this?" she asked. "We cannot let them get away with murdering Ambassador Chen." "We will present this evidence to the council," Okoye said. "We will demand that Sarah Chen be cleared of all charges. We will demand that the Zikari leaders responsible be arrested and put on trial. We will demand justice, and if they refuse?" asked the delegate from China. Okoye was quiet for a moment. "Then we will know that the council is not interested in justice. We will know that we cannot trust them, and we will act accordingly." The vote was unanimous. Earth would present the evidence and demand justice. Okoye sent the complete files to every single council member. He also released it to the public across Earth, and made sure copies reached independent journalists throughout the galaxy. The reaction was immediate. On Earth, billions of people took to the streets. They held pictures of Sarah Chen and demanded the council answer for what they had done. Jessica Chen, Sarah's daughter, appeared in broadcasts across the world. Her face was streaked with tears, but her voice was strong. "My mother was a good person," Jessica said to the cameras. "She believed in peace. She believed in working together. The council murdered her for a crime she did not commit. They need to admit the truth. They need to say they were wrong." But the council's response was not what humanity hoped for. The architect called an emergency session. Representatives from all 400 member species gathered at Concordia Prime. The damaged sections had been repaired already. It was as if the attack had never happened. Earth's new ambassador, David Torres, was there to present the evidence in person. He was a veteran diplomat who had spent 20 years dealing with aliens. He knew how the council worked. He knew this would not be easy. Torres stood at the center platform and held up a data crystal. "This contains irrefutable proof that the Zikari Dominion committed the attack on Concordia Prime. It contains proof that Ambassador Chen was innocent. It contains proof that the council executed an innocent woman." He loaded the data into the council's main system. The evidence played on screens all around the chamber. Every delegate could see it. The fake signatures, the altered footage, the Zikari communications planning everything. "We demand 3 things," Torres said firmly. "First, Ambassador Chen must be officially cleared of all charges. Second, the Zikari leaders responsible must be arrested and tried for their crimes. Third, reparations must be paid to the families of all victims of the attack, including the Chen family." The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates shouted support for Earth's demands. Others argued against them. The Zikari delegation sat silent and still, their faces showing nothing. The architect raised one glowing tentacle for silence. "The council will examine this evidence and vote on the human demands. The session is adjourned until tomorrow." That night, Torres could not sleep. He walked through the diplomatic quarters of Concordia Prime. Other ambassadors stopped him in the halls. Some offered support. A few warned him that the council would never admit to making a mistake. An ambassador from the Krell Federation, a species that looked like large armored crabs, pulled Torres aside. "You should know something," the Krell said quietly. "The Zikari have been making deals. They are promising trade benefits and military support to anyone who votes against your demands." Torres felt his stomach sink. "How many species are taking the deals?" "Enough," the Krell said sadly. "I am sorry. The council is afraid of the Zikari. They have one of the largest fleets in the galaxy. Most species would rather stay on their good side than help humanity." Torres reported this back to Earth immediately. President Okoye listened to the news in his office. Around him sat his top advisors, including Defense Secretary Amanda Chen, who was no relation to Sarah but felt the loss deeply anyway. "They are going to vote against us," Okoye said. It was not a question. "Most likely," agreed his chief of staff. "The council does not want to admit they made a mistake, and they are too afraid of the Zikari to hold them accountable." Secretary Chen leaned forward. "Sir, if they reject our demands, what do we do?" Okoye looked at his hands. "We have to decide if we can remain part of an organization that murdered our ambassador and refuses to admit the truth. Can we stay in the council knowing they care more about politics than justice?" "We cannot, sir," Chen said quietly. "If we stay, we tell them that they can do anything to us. We tell them that human lives do not matter. The next day, the council voted. It was not even close. Out of 400 member species, only 47 voted to support Earth's demands. The rest voted to uphold the original verdict. They added one more thing. Earth was censured for spreading false information and disrupting council operations. Earth was ordered to pay fines and submit to council oversight for the next 10 years. Ambassador Torres stood in the chamber as the vote results appeared on the screens. He felt sick. Behind him, representatives from dozens of species would not meet his eyes. They knew what they had done was wrong. They just did not have the courage to stand up to the Zikari. The architect spoke with that strange, echoing voice. The council has spoken. The matter is closed. Earth must accept the verdict and pay the required fines and reparations. Torres asked for permission to speak. The architect granted it. Earth will not accept this verdict, Torres said. His voice carried through the chamber clearly. We showed you proof of our innocence. We showed you proof of Zikari crimes. You chose to ignore the truth. You chose politics over justice. You murdered an innocent woman, and now you demand we pay you for the privilege. The chamber started buzzing with shocked conversations. No one spoke to the council like this. Ambassador Torres, the architect said warningly. You must not— No, Torres cut in. You will listen to what I have to say. Earth has been a loyal member of this council for 15 years. We have followed your laws. We have contributed to your projects. We have been good galactic citizens, and you repaid us by letting the Zikari frame us for mass murder. You repaid us by executing our ambassador without a real trial. You repaid us by demanding we accept your lies. Torres reached into his jacket and pulled out a sealed envelope. He held it up for everyone to see. This is a formal declaration from the government of Earth, he said. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. We will no longer be bound by your laws. We will no longer contribute to your projects. We will no longer pretend that this council cares about justice or truth. The chamber exploded in chaos. Delegates stood and shouted. Some supported Earth's decision. Most were shocked or angry. Torres was not finished. And one more thing. Ambassador Sarah Chen was innocent. History will remember that. History will remember that the council murdered her anyway. And history will remember what happened next. He placed the envelope on the platform and walked out of the chamber. His security team followed him. They boarded their ship and left Concordia Prime within the hour. Back on Earth, President Okoye prepared to address the world. He stood in the same room where Sarah Chen had stood many times, preparing her own speeches. His communications team told him they were ready. The cameras went live. Okoye looked directly into them. People of Earth, he began. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council executed our ambassador based on false charges. Today, they voted to uphold that verdict despite clear evidence of her innocence. They demand we accept this injustice. They demand we pay them for murdering Sarah Chen. He paused, letting that sink in. I say no. Humanity says no. We have withdrawn from the Galactic Council. We will not be part of an organization that values power over truth. We will not be part of an organization that lets the strong prey on the weak without consequence. Okoye's voice grew harder. The council may think this matter is closed. They are wrong. They murdered an innocent woman. They framed humanity for mass murder. They denied us justice. There will be consequences for these actions. Make no mistake, if the council comes for us, we will defend ourselves. We will defend ourselves with every weapon we have. We will defend ourselves without mercy and without end. The speech was broadcast across Earth and throughout the galaxy. On Concordia Prime, the council members watched in their chambers. Most felt a growing sense of unease. Battlefleet 17 consisted of 43 warships. It was a standard council peacekeeping force designed to intimidate rebellious colonies and enforce council law. Admiral Kresh, a proud Krilthar warrior, commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Justice. Kresh looked at the tactical display showing Kepler 442 ahead. A farming colony, he said with satisfaction. They thought they could hide behind crops and livestock. Today they learned that defying the council has consequences. His tactical officer, a young Centauri named Pell, looked nervous. Sir, intelligence is trying to reach us. They say there may be new information about the target. New information? Kresh laughed. What information could possibly matter? We have 43 warships against a colony of farmers. Continue approach. Prepare to fire warning shots across their primary settlement. The fleet moved closer. They were now within weapons range. Kresh was about to give the order to fire when something strange appeared on the sensors. Sir, Pell said, his voice shaking. The planet's surface is changing. On the main screen, they watched as the peaceful farmland of Kepler 442 transformed. Huge sections of ground slid away, revealing massive weapons platforms underneath. Defense satellites that had been disguised as communication arrays activated, their true purpose now clear. And from hidden bays, human ships emerged. Not cargo vessels, not scouts, warships, fast, sleek, and heavily armed. Kresh stared in disbelief. How many ships? Counting now, sir? 20, 30, 45? Sir, they have more ships than we do, and they're still coming out of the planet. A transmission came through, a human voice, calm and professional. This is Commander Aliyah Okafor of the Kepler Defense Force. Battlefleet 17, you have entered human space with hostile intent. You have one opportunity to withdraw. Turn your ships around and leave. If you fire a single weapon, we will respond with overwhelming force. You have 60 seconds to decide. Kresh felt anger rise in his chest. A human was giving him an ultimatum? They're bluffing, he said. Their ships are new, untested. Our fleet has centuries of combat experience. All ships prepared, sir, Pell shouted. Weapons lock! Multiple weapons locks from the planet and from their ships. Sir, they have us completely targeted. Every single one of our vessels. Kresh looked at his tactical display. It was true. Hundreds of targeting beams had locked onto his fleet. The humans weren't just ready. They had been tracking the council ship since they entered the system. The human commander's voice came again. 30 seconds, Admiral Kresh. We know who you are. We know the capabilities of every ship in your fleet. We know that Eternal Justice has a weak point in the port side shield array. We know that your third ship, Righteous Fury, has reactor problems. We've been watching you for weeks. Turn around, or we will demonstrate exactly how much we know. How did they know about the reactor problems? That information was classified. Kresh felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear, but he was a Krilthar warrior. Pride ran deep. All ships fire at will. His fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human positions. The response was instant and terrifying. The human ships moved faster than anything the Council had seen before. They dodged attacks with impossible precision. Their return fire was accurate and devastating. 3 Council ships lost their shields in the first 5 seconds. The weapons platforms on the planet fired with perfect coordination, targeting the weakest points on each Council vessel. Righteous Fury is hit, Pell reported. Direct strike to their reactor. They're venting atmosphere. Defensive Pride reports heavy damage. Eternal Vigilance is gone. Completely destroyed. 1 minute. In 1 minute of combat, the Council fleet had lost 4 ships and had a dozen more severely damaged. The humans had lost nothing. Retreat! Kresh shouted. All ships, full retreat. The Council ships turned to flee, but the human ships followed, not to destroy but to ensure the Council forces left human space. They herded the retreating fleet like shepherds with a flock. Commander Okafor's voice came through again. Admiral Kresh, we are allowing you to leave. We could destroy your entire fleet, but we won't. Take your damaged ships and go home. Tell the Council what happened here. Tell them that humans fight to defend, not to conquer. But tell them also that if they send more fleets, we will be ready. We are always ready. Kresh sat in his command chair, stunned. His fleet had been humiliated. The humans had been playing with them, demonstrating their superiority without actually trying to kill everyone. That, somehow, made it worse. Within hours, news of the battle spread across Council space. Battlefleet 17, a force that had put down 3 rebellions and intimidated a dozen others, had been defeated in minutes by a single human colony. And it wasn't just Kepler 442. Reports came in from 6 other locations where Council forces had tried to test human defenses. Every single attempt ended in retreat. The humans were not just defending, they were teaching lessons. On Earth, in a secure military facility, Fleet Admiral Torres watched the battle reports with satisfaction, but also with careful attention. Every engagement was being recorded, analyzed, and studied. The humans were learning from each fight, making notes about Council tactics and weaknesses. His second-in-command, General Park, stood beside him. We're taking some heat from civilian leadership. They're worried we're being too aggressive. We haven't crossed into Council space, Torres replied. We're only defending our territory, and we're letting survivors go so they can report back. That's restraint, not aggression. The Council is probably telling their people a different story, Park observed. Let them, Torres said. The soldiers who fought us know the truth. The captains who ran from our ships know the truth. And truth has a way of spreading, even when leaders try to hide it. He pulled up a different screen. Now for the next phase. Ambassador Chen is broadcasting directly to council populations. She's bypassing their governments and speaking to individual species. On the screen, Chen appeared, speaking in multiple languages through translation technology. People of the Galactic Council, my name is Sarah Chen. I am the human ambassador. Your governments declared war on humanity. They did this without asking you. They did this because we asked to be treated as equals. She paused, letting her words sink in. We do not want to fight you. We do not want to destroy your homes or hurt your families. But we will not be bullied. We will not surrender our freedom because ancient species think they have the right to rule younger ones. I ask you to think carefully. Ask your leaders why they declared war. Ask them what humanity did wrong. We followed every treaty. We broke no laws. Our only crime was preparing to defend ourselves. If your species wants peace with humanity, you can have it. Contact your representatives. Tell them you want negotiations, not war. We are listening. We are waiting. We hope for peace. But if your leaders choose to continue this war, know that humanity will fight. We will defend every colony, every ship, every life, and we will win. The broadcast ended. Brilliant, General Park said. She's dividing the council from within. That was always the plan, Torres replied. The council isn't a single government. It's a coalition. Coalitions can break. If enough species decide this war isn't worth it, the council leadership will have to negotiate. Park nodded. And if they don't break? Torres looked at the star maps showing council space. Then we keep fighting. And we keep winning. Eventually, they'll have no choice but to accept us as equals. In the Kathresh home system, millions of insectoid citizens watched Chen's broadcast. They chittered among themselves in confusion and concern. Their government had told them humans were dangerous rebels, but this ambassador seemed reasonable. More importantly, the reports from the battles were troubling. Kathresh soldiers had died for what? Similar conversations happened across council space, on the Vushan water worlds, in the crystal cities of the Luminara, even among the proud Krilthar. Some began to question whether this war made sense. And in the council chambers, Primarch Volthar felt control slipping through his fingers. The war he thought would be quick and easy was turning into a nightmare. The species he thought would unite against humanity were instead arguing among themselves. The humans were winning, and they were doing it not just with weapons but with words and strategy. Volthar realized something that chilled him to his core. Humanity had not just prepared for war. They had prepared for every aspect of war. Military, political, psychological. They had been preparing not just to defend, but to reshape the entire balance of power in the galaxy. And they were succeeding. 6 months passed. The war spread across 200 light-years of space. It was unlike any war the galaxy had ever seen. There were no front lines, no safe zones, no sanctuaries. Humanity struck everywhere at once. On the council world of Praxis 4, Governor Melthax woke to alarms. He rushed to his communication center and saw the reports. 3 of the planet's orbital shipyards were gone, destroyed by weapons that had appeared from nowhere. The attackers had vanished before defense forces could respond. Melthax slammed his fist on the console. How? How do they keep doing this? Where are they hiding? His military advisor, a scarred veteran, shook his head. We do not know, Governor. Our sensors detect nothing. Then suddenly missiles appear. Railgun fire comes from empty space. By the time we respond, they are gone. This was happening on 1,000 worlds. Humanity had seeded the galaxy with automated weapons platforms decades ago. Small, stealthy, nearly impossible to detect. They sat dormant for years, waiting. Now they were all active. But automated weapons were only part of the strategy. General Sarah Rodriguez commanded Earth's Special Operations Forces. She was 48 years old with sharp eyes and scars from a dozen battles. Her teams operated deep in council space, striking targets that automated systems could not reach. Rodriguez stood in the operations center on Luna, Earth's moon. Around her, dozens of screens showed active missions across the galaxy. Each dot on the map was a human team in enemy territory. Status on Operation Nightfall? She asked. Her aide checked the screens. Team 7 reports success. The Council communication relay at Sigma Station is destroyed. Council forces in that sector will be operating blind for at least 2 weeks. Good. What about the supply convoy near the Zikari border? Team 12 is in position. They will strike in 4 hours when the convoy is furthest from reinforcements. Rodriguez nodded. Her teams were well-trained and highly motivated. Many of them had known Sarah Chen personally, or had friends who died when the Council attacked Earth. They fought with purpose. But it was not just military targets. Earth's Cyber Warfare Division worked day and night to disrupt Council operations. They hacked communication systems. They stole military plans. They planted false information that caused Council fleets to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Dr. Lisa Park ran the Cyber Division. She was 35 years old and had been hacking systems since she was 12. She looked at her team's latest achievement with satisfaction. "We are in their central military network," she told President Okoye during their daily briefing. "We can see every fleet movement, every supply order, every communication. They do not even know we are there." "How long before they find out?" Okoye asked. Park shrugged. "Eventually they will. But by then we will have planted backdoors in a dozen other systems. We will always be one step ahead." The psychological warfare was equally important. Every day Earth broadcast messages to Council worlds. They showed the truth about Concordia Prime. They showed the corruption of Council leaders. They asked ordinary citizens questions. "Why are you fighting this war? Who benefits from it? Your leaders sent your soldiers to die for what? To protect the Zikari who committed mass murder?" The messages worked. Across Council space, public opinion turned. Protests grew larger. Some species began pulling their forces back, unwilling to continue fighting. The Council tried to block Earth's transmissions, but humanity had too many relay stations hidden throughout the galaxy. On Concordia Prime, the Council held another emergency session. The architect looked around the chamber at the fewer delegates than before. 20 species had withdrawn from the Council in the past 6 months. Others were considering it. "The situation grows worse," the architect said. "Human attacks continue. Our supply lines are disrupted. Our communication systems are compromised. Our member species lose faith in our ability to protect them." Ambassador Thex of the Zikari stood. "Then we must assemble the Grand Fleet. Every ship from every loyal species. We will go to Earth and destroy their home world. Without Earth, the humans cannot continue." A delegate from the Paraxi Collective, insect-like beings with multiple eyes, clicked its mandibles in disagreement. "The last fleet we sent to Earth was destroyed. The humans have shown they can defend their world. Meanwhile, they attack us everywhere. We are bleeding resources while they lose nothing. Then what do you propose?" Thex demanded. "That we surrender? That we admit we were wrong? Perhaps we should consider the humans' terms," the Pyraxi said carefully. "They want Ambassador Chen cleared. They want the Zikari leaders tried. They want the Council reformed. Are these demands so unreasonable?" Thex turned purple with rage. His forearms gestured wildly. "Unreasonable? They demand we betray the Zikari Dominion. They demand we admit the Council was wrong. If we do that, what authority will we have left?" The Krell delegate stood up slowly. "Perhaps less authority than we deserve. We made a terrible mistake. We let the Zikari frame humanity. We executed an innocent ambassador. The humans are right to be angry. Maybe it is time we face the consequences of our actions." More delegates voiced agreement. The Council was fracturing. Species that had been allies for centuries now questioned whether they should remain part of the Council at all. Meanwhile, in the Zikari Dominion, things were getting desperate. Humanity had focused many of their attacks on Zikari targets. Their worlds were under constant assault. Their trade was disrupted. Their military was stretched thin, trying to defend everything at once. Supreme Leader Varkoth sat in his palace on the Zikari homeworld. He looked old and tired. 6 months of war had aged him. General Vex stood before him, delivering the latest bad news. "We lost another 3 colonies this week, my lord. Human raiders destroyed the orbital defenses and landed ground forces. The colonies have declared independence and asked Earth for protection." "How is this possible?" Varkoth demanded. "We are one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. How can these humans hurt us so badly?" Vex chose his words carefully. He had warned against attacking Earth. He had warned that humans were dangerous. No one had listened. "Because they fight differently than we do, my lord, we expect honor. We expect rules. We expect battles where both sides line up and fight. The humans do none of these things. They strike from shadows. They target our weakest points. They make us defend everything, which means we defend nothing well. Then we will fight like they do. We will strike their colonies. They have no colonies, Vex interrupted. That is the problem. Everything they need is on Earth or in their solar system. We cannot hurt them the way they hurt us, and their defenses around Earth are too strong for us to break through. Varkoth was silent for a long time. Then he asked the question he had been avoiding. Can we win this war? Vex looked his leader in the eyes. No, my lord, we cannot. The longer this war continues, the weaker we become and the stronger they appear. Other species see that we cannot defeat the humans. They begin to wonder if we are as powerful as we claimed. Some even begin to wonder if we were lying about Concordia Prime. Varkoth closed his 4 eyes. He had started this war thinking humanity would be crushed in weeks. He had been wrong. On Earth, President Okoye met with his war council. They reviewed the latest reports. The war was going well from a military perspective. Human casualties were relatively low. Council losses were mounting. Public opinion across the galaxy was turning in humanity's favor. But Admiral Tanaka raised a concern. Mr. President, we are winning battles, but we need to think about the endgame. What is our goal here? Total destruction of the Council? That would leave a power vacuum that could destabilize the entire galaxy. Okoye nodded. Our goal was never destruction. Our goal was justice. We wanted the truth acknowledged. We wanted Sarah Chen cleared. We wanted those responsible held accountable, and we wanted to ensure this could never happen again. The Council is fracturing, Secretary Chen observed. Many species are questioning their membership. Some are openly sympathetic to our cause. Perhaps it is time to present our demands again. But this time, make it clear this is the final offer. Okoye considered this. The war could continue for years. Humanity could probably win eventually, but at what cost? How many more would die? How much more destruction? He thought about Sarah Chen. What would she have wanted? She had believed in diplomacy. She had believed in peace. But she had also believed in justice and standing up for what was right. Prepare a message to the Council, Okoye said finally. We will offer peace, but only under our terms. Complete terms with no compromises. Ambassador Chen must be officially cleared. The Zikari leaders who planned the attack must be extradited to Earth for trial. The Council must be restructured to prevent this from happening again, and reparations must be paid to all victims. And if they refuse, Tanaka asked. Okoye's face hardened. Then we will continue fighting. Not for months or years. Forever if necessary. We will make it clear that humanity will never stop, never surrender, never forgive. They will fight this war until the Council collapses or until they accept justice. Those are the only 2 outcomes. The message was sent. It reached every Council member. It was also broadcast publicly so that citizens across the galaxy could hear it. The human terms were simple and clear. Peace with justice or war without end. 3 years after Ambassador Sarah Chen was executed, the galaxy looked very different. The war had finally ended, but not with a surrender. It ended with transformation. On Concordia Prime, the final ceremony was about to begin. The damaged station had been rebuilt, but this time with a new purpose. It would no longer be the center of the Galactic Council. It would be the home of the Galactic Assembly, a new organization built on very different principles. President Okoye walked through the halls where Sarah Chen had walked years before. He was older now, his hair completely gray. The war had taken a lot from him. But today was a day of closure. Today was a day of justice. Beside him walked Jessica Chen. Sarah's daughter was now 25 years old. She had become a lawyer specializing in galactic justice. She had spent the last 3 years working to build the new system that would replace the old council. They reached the main chamber. It looked different than before. Instead of circles going up like a stadium, the seats were arranged in a circle on one level. No species sat higher than another. At the center was not a platform for speakers, but a round table. The message was clear. Everyone was equal here. Representatives from 300 species filled the chamber. 40 species had chosen not to join the new assembly. Most of those were Zikari allies who could not accept the changes. The Zikari Dominion itself had collapsed during the final year of the war. Their empire had broken into dozens of smaller independent systems. The ceremony began with silence. A moment to remember all who had died, the victims of the Concordia Prime attack, the soldiers who fought in the war, and Ambassador Sarah Chen, the woman whose death had changed the galaxy. Then the architect spoke. The ancient being had survived the transition from council to assembly. It had voted to accept Earth's terms and had worked to rebuild galactic unity. 3 years ago, the Galactic Council made a terrible mistake, the architect said. Its voice echoed in everyone's minds. We allowed fear to override justice. We allowed power to corrupt truth. We executed an innocent being and blamed an entire species for crimes they did not commit. The chamber was completely silent. Everyone listened. Today we formally acknowledge that Ambassador Sarah Chen was innocent of all charges. The attack on Concordia Prime was carried out by members of the Zikari military leadership. The evidence was falsified. The trial was a mockery of justice. Ambassador Chen died because we were cowards who feared standing up to the powerful. Jessica Chen listened with tears streaming down her face. These were words she had waited 3 years to hear, words that should have been spoken immediately. But at least they were being spoken now. The architect continued. The individuals responsible for the attack and the cover-up have been arrested. They have been extradited to Earth to face trial under a joint human galactic tribunal. Justice will be served, not the quick political justice we practiced before. Real justice with real evidence and real trials. That trial had happened over the previous year. Former Zikari Supreme Leader Varkoth and 12 of his top generals were found guilty of mass murder, conspiracy, and crimes against sentient life. They were sentenced to life imprisonment on a neutral world, supervised by multiple species to ensure fair treatment. General Vex, who had warned against the war, had testified against his former leaders. He was cleared of crimes and now helped govern one of the new independent Zikari systems. He had personally apologized to Jessica Chen during the trial. She had accepted his apology. The architect gestured with a glowing tentacle. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Sarah Chen, smiling and confident, giving a speech at the council 2 weeks before the attack. Ambassador Chen believed in cooperation between species, the architect said. She believed that different beings could work together for the common good. She was right. Her death taught us the cost of abandoning those principles.
The war that followed taught us that injustice has consequences. The hologram changed.
Now it showed the memorial that had been built at the exact spot where Sarah was executed. It was a beautiful statue showing her standing tall, looking toward the stars. Carved into the base were words that had become famous across the galaxy. Here, Ambassador Sarah Chen was murdered by those who feared justice. Here, humanity taught the galaxy that tyranny, no matter how vast, will always fall to those willing to stand. The architect turned to President Okoye. Would you like to say anything, Mr. President? Okoye stood slowly. He had prepared a speech, but now he set his notes aside. 3 years ago, I spoke to my people about what had happened to Ambassador Chen. I was angry. We were all angry. The council had murdered our representative and demanded we accept it. I told them we would never accept it. I told them we would fight without end if necessary. He paused, looking around the chamber at all the different species. The war was terrible. Millions died on both sides. Worlds were damaged. Economies collapsed. Families were destroyed. I do not celebrate what happened. But I do not regret standing up for justice either. Sometimes the cost of doing what is right is very high, but the cost of accepting injustice is higher. Several delegates nodded in agreement. Even species that had fought against Earth understood what Okoye meant. This new assembly is built on different principles than the old council, Okoye continued. Every species has an equal voice. No one can be executed without real evidence and a fair trial. No species is too powerful to be held accountable. These are the lessons Sarah Chen's death taught us. These are the lessons we must never forget. He looked directly at Jessica Chen. Your mother would be proud of what we have built here. She believed in this dream of different species working together with mutual respect. It took her death to make that dream possible. I am sorry for that. We are all sorry for that. Jessica stood up. She had been asked to speak but had been unsure if she could. Now looking around at all these different beings, she knew what to say. My mother loved her job, Jessica said. Her voice was clear and strong. She loved meeting new species. She loved learning about different cultures. She believed that understanding each other was the key to peace. When she was arrested, when she was put on trial, she could have lied to save herself. She could have confessed to something she did not do. But she refused. She died telling the truth. Jessica wiped tears from her eyes but kept speaking. For 3 years I have been angry. I wanted revenge. I wanted everyone who hurt my mother to suffer. But during that time, I have also learned something important. My mother did not die for nothing. Her death exposed the corruption in the old system. Her death showed what happens when power is more important than truth. Her death changed the galaxy for the better. She looked around at the delegates from hundreds of worlds. I forgive you, Jessica said simply, not because what you did was okay. It was not okay, but because holding on to anger will not bring my mother back. The best way to honor her is to make sure this never happens again. That is what this assembly is for. That is what all the laws you have written are for. So please remember her. Remember what happened, and never let it happen again. Many delegates were crying now, not just humans, but beings from dozens of species. They had all lived through the war. They had all seen what injustice could lead to. The Krell delegate stood. Miss Chen, on behalf of my people, I apologize. We voted to uphold your mother's execution. We were wrong. We were cowards. We will never make that mistake again. One by one, other delegates stood. Species after species formally apologized. They admitted their mistakes. They promised to do better. It was something the old council would never have done. But this was not the old council. The ceremony ended with the signing of the assembly charter. Every representative came forward and added their signature or mark. When it was done, the document was sealed in a crystal case that would be kept in the memorial hall, next to Sarah Chen's statue. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Species that had been enemies mingled peacefully. Admiral Tanaka spoke with former council military officers about the battles they had fought. General Rodriguez shared tactical analysis with aliens who had been hunting her teams just months before. Former enemies were becoming colleagues, maybe even friends. President Okoye found Jessica standing by a window looking out at the stars. "Are you okay?" he asked. Jessica nodded. "I am. For the first time in 3 years, I feel like I can breathe again. We got justice. Not perfect justice, but real justice. That is all we ever wanted." "Your mother would be very proud of you," Okoye said. "You helped write many of the laws that will govern the assembly. You made sure her death meant something." "We all did," Jessica replied. "Earth, the people who testified against the Zikari leaders. The species who finally stood up for what was right. We all made this happen together." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the ships come and go from Concordia Prime. This station had been the scene of terrible tragedy. Now it was the center of something new and better. Meanwhile, on Earth, celebrations filled the streets. The war was over. Peace had been achieved. But more importantly, justice had been served. Statues of Sarah Chen were built in every major city. Schools were named after her. Her story was taught to every child. But humanity did not forget the lessons of the war. Earth remained heavily armed.